In a kingdom where laughter had slowly faded into silence, there lived a princess named Arabella whose sadness had lasted so long that people began to believe joy itself had disappeared from the world. The grand halls of the castle echoed not with laughter, but with quiet footsteps, and sometimes, late at night, the servants whispered that they had never even heard the sound of the princess's voice raised in excitement. The gardens bloomed without delight, as even the birds seemed to sing more softly near the palace, and the entire kingdom lived under a heavy cloud of sorrow, because in all her 17 years, Princess Arabella had never once smiled. She was not cruel or cold. In fact, she was kind, thoughtful, and deeply cared for her people. But happiness always seemed just out of her reach, like something she could see but never truly feel. And at times, she would stand by her window for hours, watching children in the distance laughing freely, placing her hand gently against the glass, as if trying to understand what separated her from them. King Roland, her loving father, tried everything to bring a smile to her face. Doctors examined her and declared her perfectly healthy. Wise women offered herbs and remedies that changed nothing. Philosophers spoke endlessly about joy and meaning. Even a traveling illusionist once filled the throne room with floating lights that turned into dancing shapes of childhood memories. But Arabella only watched quietly, her eyes reflecting the beauty, but never responding to it. And each failed attempt seemed to deepen the silence around her, until even hope itself began to feel fragile. Desperate, the king made a grand announcement across the land, promising a great reward to anyone who could make the princess smile, and soon the castle was filled with entertainers, jesters performing daring tricks, musicians composing songs just for her, storytellers weaving tales so vivid they brought tears to others' eyes, magicians creating impossible wonders that made the crowd gasp. But although Arabella politely listened and appreciated their efforts, her expression never changed, and one by one they all left disappointed, some even questioning if the princess's heart was somehow unreachable, until the kingdom slowly began to lose hope, and the laughter that once lived in memories started to feel like a distant dream. Then, one quiet spring morning, when the air carried the gentle scent of fresh blossoms, a simple young man named Thomas arrived at the castle gates. He was not rich or famous, just the son of a baker from a small village, his clothes plain and slightly dusted with flour, yet there was a quiet determination in his eyes that made even the guards pause. They doubted him, warning that even the greatest performers had failed, but Thomas insisted on trying, saying softly that perhaps no one had truly tried to understand the princess, and when he was finally brought before Princess Arabella, he did something no one else had ever done. He didn't perform, he didn't try to impress her. Instead, he simply sat at a respectful distance and asked her a question: why she never smiled. Surprised and slightly unsettled by his honesty, Arabella admitted that she didn't know. She explained how she could see beauty, hear music, and understand joy, but never truly feel it, as if she were watching life from behind a window instead of living it. And for a moment, her voice carried a faint trace of something deeper, perhaps loneliness she had never spoken of before. Thomas listened carefully, not judging or interrupting, and gently told her that maybe people had been trying too hard to give her their happiness instead of helping her discover her own. He spoke about small, simple moments from his life, his sister laughing uncontrollably over nothing, the comforting smell of fresh bread filling their home at dawn, quiet walks under golden sunlight where everything felt peaceful, and as he spoke, the room itself seemed to soften. Curious, Arabella followed him to the window, where they watched a gardener chasing his hat in the wind, stumbling awkwardly before falling into a pile of leaves, pausing for a second, and then bursting into genuine laughter at himself. Thomas laughed warmly, without holding back, and something about that unfiltered moment broke through the stillness around her. Arabella felt something unfamiliar stir inside her, a lightness, fragile yet real, like the first drop of rain after a long drought, And encouraged, Thomas shared more simple, funny memories, each one carrying warmth instead of performance, until slowly, almost uncertainly, Arabella began to open up too, recalling a small, amusing moment from a royal dinner where a fly had landed stubbornly on a duke's nose while he tried to remain dignified. And as she described it, her voice changed, her eyes softened, and then, as if time itself paused to witness it, her lips gently curved upward. It was small at first, almost invisible, but then it grew into something real, something alive, and for the very first time in her life, Princess Arabella smiled, a quiet, trembling smile that soon blossomed into soft laughter, filling the room with a sound so rare and beautiful that it seemed to awaken the entire castle. King Roland, watching from afar, rushed in with tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed not just by the sight of his daughter smiling, but by the return of something he had feared lost forever, while Arabella herself realized that happiness was never beyond her reach. It had simply been waiting in the simplest of moments, in connection, in understanding, in being truly seen. Thomas received his reward, though he cared little for the gold and instead gave most of it to his village, but more importantly, he became a true friend to Arabella, visiting often and guiding her gently through the beauty of everyday life. She did not suddenly become someone who smiled all the time, but she learned to laugh, to feel, and to truly live. And slowly, like sunlight returning after a long winter, the kingdom of Meridian filled with laughter once again, reminding everyone that joy is not something that can be forced or gifted. It is something quietly waiting within us, ready to be discovered when we open our hearts to the world and to one another.